Hello parents, thank you for coming. Let's get straight into our grade 1 physical education presentation. So in this unit, we're going to be looking at fundamental movement skills. As you can see here, I've got a couple of definitions of what fundamental movement skills are, but basically they refer to just the basic movement patterns that will provide our students with the foundation to participate confidently in sports and physical activity. They include locomotor movements, object control movements, and stability. We've got a little visual there for you. Now, how does this link to the curriculum? The activity that I will be going through today links to the curriculum in these areas. This is straight from the Victorian Curriculum website. We're going to be looking at performing fundamental movement skills in different movement situations, indoor, outdoor, and aquatic settings. We're just going to be focusing on indoor settings for this activity. You can read through that. That's exactly what we'll be covering. Now, how will we deliver this content? So I'm going to be using the high impact teaching strategies. They are a bank of 10 teaching practices that are internationally recognized as the most reliable. So they're meant to work. I'm going to be using explicit teaching, which is basically demonstrating and modeling the actions of the fundamental movement skills. Research does suggest that it will provide a holistic view to teaching FMS, which is great. That's what we want, and it'll provide the students the opportunity to see the correct technique and copy it. So it's really good for teaching FMS. And I'll also be using multiple exposures. That's basically just giving the students multiple opportunities to practice the skills. It can become mundane, and that's why it works great when used with gamification, which we'll be going through. So the game that we're going to be playing, it's called In and Out. Here is where it all links in with the curriculum. So our students will be performing locomotor movements, and they'll be using different body parts to do so. They'll be demonstrating balance, demonstrating how to transfer weight. They'll be participating in a game that makes them use different fundamental movement skills, and explaining how the rules of the game will contribute to fair play and applying them as a group. And the learning outcomes for this activity will be students demonstrating a range of different types of fundamental movement skills. Students will be able to follow the rules of the game, and students can lead the activity in small groups to other students. So the game itself will basically have students, we'll gather them around and explain that the game consists of me saying in or out, and they need to copy that movement. So there'll be a playing area. We'll use the circle of a basketball court, and when I say in, all of the students will jump into the circle, and when I say out, they'll jump out of the circle. We can start by demonstrating what jumping is, so modeling the correct technique, and then getting the students to do so. I'll try and trick them, so when they're going to be jumping in, I'll be saying out, and if the students jump in, then they need to sit down for a part of it, or yeah. So that's the basics of the game. We can change the fundamental movement skill that the students will be learning. So we can change it to hopping, demonstrate what hopping is. When I say in, they must hop into the circle, out, hop out of the circle. So once the group sort of understands the rules, I'd choose a student to take over, and then they would lead the group saying in and out, changing the fundamental movement skill. And then from there we can break off into smaller groups, but that is if the students are all understanding how to play. This is how we'll be assessing student achievement for the lesson. So if students show some coordination whilst attempting the fundamental movement skills, that'll be at the first star of achievement. Students can comfortably complete most of the demonstrated fundamental movement skills. That'll be the 2-star, and students can comfortably and confidently perform the demonstrated fundamental movement skills. That will be the aim for everybody. Now, how we'll actually assess what the students have learned. At the start of a unit, we would probably use formative assessment. So it's It's less formal. It'd be me taking notes mentally or physically on how students perform the locomotor movements, and the summative assessment would be done at the end of the unit, and it would be actually assessing how the students or what the students have learned. So this is an example, would be rating the students' locomotor movements on a scale of 1 to 5. As you can see here, this is for jumping. 5 would be landing and taking off on 2 feet, getting their arms swinging, and it all flows confidently and smoothly. That would be at the top end of the scale. If a student did that, I'd tick over there, and so on for all of those. So that is all good and well, but why is this important? You know, we're just playing games and we're just letting them learn movement skills. Why does that matter? So I've done some research into it, and this first article that I've read, it goes through and justifies why fundamental movement skills are important. It basically says that the mastery of fundamental movement skills can directly affect the students' outlook on physical activity for the rest of their lives. Basically, if they are confident in their ability to move, they're going to be more likely to want to be physical. They'll be more likely to play games and sports and a lot of other good things. So that's a very good article. I suggest anyone read it if you have any more questions. The second article, it goes through why, and it justifies why I've chosen to make this a play-based learning environment. It will allow me to see how students can incorporate the new knowledge that they've learned with their own knowledge and how they apply that in a game and while they're playing. So it's got a lot of positives and in teaching fundamental movement skills, and it's backed by this article here. And this final one is justifying why I've chosen to make this a game. Basically, learning these skills can be done just by repetitively teaching them how to jump, or teaching them how to run or skip or whatever it is, and that can become mundane really fast. So there's a lot of benefits to using gamification, which includes making learning more fun, keeping students' attention, improving student-teacher relationships, and improving the general learning experience. So that's all in this article here if you wanted to read further. Now, my perspective on this, on why fundamental movement skills are so important, is because it will allow our students to confidently participate in physical activity. Now, if they master their fundamental movement skills, they're going to be more confident in their own ability and will therefore be more likely to participate in all the different activities and sports that we're going to be introducing to them further, like later on. So that leads on to them being exposed to more activities and sports, not only in primary school but in secondary school, outside of school. They're going to be more likely to participate, and then they're going to be more likely to learn a bunch of different things, and that's going to spark a lifelong interest in physical activity and fitness. You know, they could find their future profession, they could find a lifelong hobby, just by being confident in their own ability and giving something a go. So that's one of the reasons why I think that fundamental movement skills are so vital and should definitely be a part of our unit of teaching. Now, here are my references. I've used a whole bunch. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.